Hello and welcome to AUTOiNFORM online magazine. My name is Frank Massey. In this how-to feature, I'd like to take a look at a very important aspect of repairing the vehicle, and it actually is involved with controlling the customer. Now I use the word control advisedly. The first opportunity we have as technicians is to sell our confidence in the ability to repair a car. Part of that process is to explain carefully in simplistic but technical means what process we're going to go through. This gives the customer the confidence that we do have a process, and that process is both methodical and progressive. In other words, it's not a scattergun approach. It's also important that when it comes to actually pricing a repair, one of the great challenges of diagnostics is that until we become involved in the repair process, we actually don't know what the end cost is going to be. To sell that to a customer, it can be difficult if it's not controlled correctly, so communication is a big issue here as well. By constructing a process, and the process is both technically progressive and focused, is the way to do it. It gives the customer confidence that there is communication taking place during the event. The event is the repair, and that the cost of that can be projected at each stage of that progression. I intend to use the foundation notes as a guidance for this presentation because this is a very important feature within our foundation program. It's a very important part. Before we fix a car, we have to ensure the customer has both confidence in us as a technician, as a business, and confidence that the repair has a methodical and technical process in place which ensures both an accurate, speedy and effective and durable repair. First stage always, interview the customer. Now I use the word interview very carefully. Long gone are the days when the customer can simply throw a set of keys on a desk and say, please ring me when the car's finished. Diagnostics is a progressive skill set, and communication is a key part of that. To interview the customer fully, to understand what the actual fault is. Now be very careful what word sets the customer uses. Listen to description, not opinion, and by that I mean customer comes in, says, I think I've got a misfire. Ignore the word misfire, but get them to explain how that event is felt whilst you're driving the car, to explain the symptoms if you like. Don't be prejudged by what the customer tells you, but listen carefully to the description. So the interview section is very important. At this stage, it's also important to explain what your response is going to be. In other words, what you can offer as a business to investigate this process. Now, it's a process that obviously has several stages, so make it clear to a customer that the initial process, which in my opinion should begin with a serial diagnostic evaluation, is just part and maybe the first part of an ongoing process. So don't make predictions that you can't guarantee. In other words, whether it be in time or cost or process, don't make commitments you can't meet. What do they want? Do they want you to investigate it? Do they want you to repair it? So be very clear in what they actually expect of you as a technician. What can you do? Has your business got the infrastructure to actually carry out this work in-house? If it hasn't, that means you're going to subcontract or stop at a certain point in the process and go no further. Now, there's risks on both of those, so you have to be sure that what you commit to can actually be achieved within the agreement. The agreement is both price and time frame. When can you do it? Keep control of time. If you lose control of time, then you lose control of your workshop. If you lose control of your workshop, you lose control of process. And that's when pressure starts to take place that often forces people, especially technicians and often workshop managers, into a situation where they're putting time constraints on the technician to achieve an end result. This is when faults and mistakes are being made. Agree a flexible contract. I've already made the statement that to make a commitment for a repair against a fixed price with no prior knowledge to the nature of the fault or the extent of the fault is a very risky scenario, and it will lead to disagreement. Keep in touch. I've made the point many times. Communication is essential. Several communication events always accompany most of the repairs that we carry out. Conduct a risk assessment. The risk assessment is an assessment of risk against the customer. What do they want? What do they expect? Are they prepared to pay for it? Can they pay for it? And a risk assessment of the vehicle condition. Is the potential fault or repair a financial viability? In other words, is the value of the vehicle such that the repair would be, shall we say, a financial risk? If you feel that it's not a financial worthwhile venture, give that advice. Quite often our customers listen to that advice and still request that we continue. There are other issues you can bring into that argument. The value of the repair may exceed the value of the car, but what they're going to replace it with, they're going to have to invest more money to replace the car. They may buy a car that has other faults involved with it. Second-hand cars often do. So the end value of that repair actually may exceed just the sum cost of the parts and the labour. Document the process. Now, document your results during the investigation phase or the diagnosis phase, and document the results, of course, when you've done a correction or a component replacement. Validating the repair means that once the component's fitted, don't assume everything's okay. There could quite easily be collateral damage. You've fixed the cause, there could be collateral damage. For example, if a vehicle's overfueled for any number of reasons, could the DPF in the case of diesel, or could the catalyst in the case of petrol, have been damaged or contaminated by that fault, in which case there's further investigation needed, maybe further time needed to recover the functionality of that component. So validate the repair progressively as you work through fault finding and rectification. Submit a detailed invoice. One of the most common comments or challenges I meet during the training programs that we run is to get a good financial return on investment and time. Now, one way of doing that is try to avoid at all cost quoting an hourly rate. Quite often customers will ring round and obtain the cheapest hourly rate. That doesn't guarantee they're going to get the best technical service, of course. A way to maintain the hourly rate is to have modular pricing. In other words, let me go through a simple scenario of where a customer will contact us. They may ask initially for a serial evaluation. We'll price that at a certain price. Make no commitments to the conclusions of that, and make the comment that further tests may be needed. Now, let's say that we assume there are some hydraulic tests needed doing, say fuel pressure, fuel flow, for example. We will then pick the phone up, give them the results of the serial communication part of the evaluation, and then give them a quote for the continuing hydraulic tests. It may well be, concluding those, we may decide to do a smoke test on the induction system. That also will have a separate value. Now, by creating this modular pricing and invoicing, you then have a relatively good return on an hourly rate, and you also are qualifying each process as well. So it not only identifies logic process, it also identifies the cost against each process. It's a much more professional way to invoice. It also documents very carefully the tests you've actually done. So should there be an issue with warranty or the end result of the process, it's clearly documented both technically and financially on the invoice, and it works very well. And finally, of course, take payment. The other issue with control of the customer is a very simple one. These are contracts and terms to be understood by both parties, of course. The projected cost with potential overrun. Try to project potential cost. It always is better to deliver what effectively is bad news at an early stage in the process, give them time to become comfortable with the process and potential cost. The risks involved, is there any collateral damage? Yes, there may be. And the need for further repairs. The time required with possible extensions, the expectations, cost versus result, and of course any unforeseen delays and implications. I hope you found this feature of interest. It's a very critical part of the process, and it's very much embodied in the foundation programme. So thank you for joining me in this little feature, and I hope that's been of some guidance for you. If you're interested in developing your diagnostic skills, please visit the AUTOiNFORM website for both details of our face-to-face training and DVD learning modules. We are also able to supply a selection of diagnostic tools.